Welcome back. You're still with us on Startup Street. AI health tech startup Suki provides AI-powered voice solutions for healthcare with a mission to lift the administrative burden from doctors so that they can focus on their patients. The company, which was founded by ex-Google and Flipkart product honcho Punit Soni, is looking to increase its India presence in 2022. The platform has seen its users increase by 70% since the beginning of January, and in fact, it has also announced that it has added new voice-enabled capabilities to its flagship product, Suki Assistant. Joining me now to discuss the company's growth story and its future targets is Punit Singh, the founder and CEO of Suki. Punit, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. At Suki, you provide AI-powered voice solutions for healthcare with an aim to lift the administrative burden from physicians. Can you tell us how this works and how do you help reduce the burden for physicians? What's your business model?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that. Thank you for having me on, first of all. So Suki is a digital assistant for doctors. Think of it like a Siri for doctors. When doctors are out and about meeting their patients, there's a lot of burden on them. In US, it involves documenting stuff, prescribing orders, putting them in the right place, making sure you can extract the right information, send it to insurance, etc. In India also, especially as it's moving from a paper, based setup to a digital setup, there's a lot of administrative burdens that doctors have. What Suki is building is a speech solution that doctors can use that basically will help ease that burden. When that burden's eased, it allows them to see more patients. It allows health systems to create more revenue. It creates much more efficiency for them. And in effect, it makes healthcare tech assistive and invisible, which is basically the mission of Suki.
Absolutely. In fact, you have a few products on offer, and your flagship product is Suki Assistant. Can you tell me the kind of response you've seen for this product? In fact, you added a few new voice-enabled capabilities as well to the product. Can you take us through this and give us some use cases?
Sure. Let me first step back for a second and give you some background. Think about healthcare. Healthcare is about 5 to 7% of India's GDP. It's also about 20% of US's GDP. 20% of the world's largest economy basically is spent on healthcare. And if you look at e-commerce, you have Amazon. In social networking, you have Facebook. In search, you have Google. In media, you have Netflix. What do we have? What's the seminal technology company in healthcare? So we have this belief that the greatest, most interesting technology company ever built will be in healthcare space. And we believe it will be at the cusp of making this healthcare tech assistive and invisible. So building a product like Suki is basically, or Suki Assistant is just the start. Doctors use us when they're seeing patients to document very easily so that they can capture everything that they had with the patient interaction into a digital medical record. They also use us basically to be able to extract all the information and send it to insurance so that they can get paid for what they've done. They use us to prescribe overtime orders and many things like that. To build this, we have had to build probably the most sophisticated medically tuned speech recognition system and command extractor. So you take all of that, and that becomes the basis for a larger product called Suki Speech Service, which is basically a platform that systems can use to actually add voice to their own products. A classic example is Philips, which did a big partnership with us, effectively using us to drive voice across their suite of healthcare products. So those are the two main areas that we work on, the Suki Assistant, which is used by doctors directly, and the Suki Speech Service, which is used by healthcare tech companies to add voice to their products, both in the service of making all of healthcare tech assistive and invisible.
All right. Hi, Punit, Aishwarya here. So what's the kind of growth you've seen so far? What are the revenues looking like? And what are the targets you've set for yourself going forward?
Yeah, healthcare is such an interesting field. There is a very different cadence to how you have to operate here. You can imagine the amount of liability, the amount of privacy, security required to be able to deploy at large scale in these places. Having said that, we have seen a tremendous amount of growth over the last couple of years. I think last year we had about 40% growth overall in our usage. And in the first 3 months of this year, we have seen 70% on top of it. We are in about 600 plus locations across the country in US, deployed across 30 plus different specialties. So cardiology, orthopedics, family practice, internal medicine, you name it. And those are the places that we are actually deployed. In fact, in the time that I've spent talking to you, Suki has been used in 30 different spots across in patient encounters to actually document and make sure that that patient encounter is processed. So we're seeing a lot of growth. We're seeing a lot of growth in specialties, in the number of sites, in the number of patient encounters that are using it. And every single patient encounter that Suki is used for makes the artificial intelligence smarter. So it gets much better and is able to then be able to do a better job the next time it's used.
Okay, so while we have discussed the growth plan, tell me, you're also looking to ramp up your India presence this year. So what has been the India growth story and what's the expansion strategy? How much of your revenue do you see coming out of this market?
Yeah, I think India is a very critical market for us. When I had actually left Flipkart to go back to start Suki, I had said that I'll be back to create an India story around some of the work I have to do in the future. And the first part of Suki in India for us is actually building what we call a center of excellence around machine learning and artificial intelligence. We have a team here in Bangalore that we are ramping up right now, and we're going to be doubling the number of people we have hired there over the course of the rest of the course of this year. So that's going to be the first focus. The second focus is to start looking carefully at some of the policy decisions that the Indian government's making, especially things like Ayushman Bharat and related stuff. That will allow us to think about how can Suki be deployed in the Indian context. Today, the primary market of Suki is going to be the US market. But we expect in the next couple of years that India will become a big focus for us. And I have this belief that what FinTech and what UPI did for FinTech in the last few years, what we will do on the healthcare API side, the government's going to do here is going to completely blow away any projections around what healthcare tech can be in India. So it's a very big part of our story.
Absolutely. So right now the focus on US, but you expect India to be a very important market in the coming years. All right, Punit, thank you so much for joining us on the show, but we're completely out of time.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Startup Street.